Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, the New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm me. I'm Rob. Let's get the show on the road since we're late for the third time this week.
I know, I feel bad for everybody here. I'm sorry, guys. We're not doing it on purpose, I promise.
We're so sorry.
It's not personal. At least this time it's not my computer's all messed up and everything here, so...
I just got to work late. Look at this photo action.
Luckily, we got our IT professional, aka my wife, to go ahead and look at my desktop and see what the hell's going on. I can do graphic design, audio stuff, all that kind of stuff. For some reason, I've never been somebody who's good at fixing a computer. You know, like once it's running slow or run like poop there. You know, kind of like the Evan Neal of computers.
Flipping the RAM and
yeah. Exactly. I just had a burger too, ironically. But yeah, so today, guys, we're gonna get a lot on the plate here for you. First off, new background. Ooh, and then yeah, those on audio are like, oh, I can't see it.
We look magnificent.
Of
the
course,
filter on your face is perfect.
Oh, it's amazing.
Couldn't tell it was Drew.
And then, of course, we got today to go over. We get the linebackers we're going to go over as we continue going over each group and to go over all the players for the season here that are going into camp. And of course, we're going to go over the third day of OTAs. We got some Giants news to go over here with you guys as well, with Daniel Jones talking about not being fired up about attempts to replace him. And, of course, Dable talking about joint practices coming this later this year. So let's get right into it here. Let's talk about some linebackers.
Ooh.
First up, of course, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Okereke. And let's be honest, guys, this is probably one of the best players in the entire team, not just the best player on this group. You could easily make the case that he could be the second best player of the team, if not third, maybe, depending on where you want to put him, Dexter Lawrence, and Andrew Thomas, who to me are the top three.
That's what I say. He's arguably top three.
There's no argument to my end.
Yeah.
I'd say point blank he's top three. I don't know if you got an argument on that, but you got a fourth guy?
No.
I mean, you could throw Burns maybe into the mix, but until he actually does it with the Giants, I can't throw him there.
You have to, yes. We talked about him last night. If you guys haven't watched the episode, you got to go back and watch the episode. We talked about him for about 15 minutes, half an hour between him and,
that's crazy.
and Thibodeau. But, he on paper is going to be one of the best players. I mean, you'd argue, like, you'd say in the same context, like, Thibodeau comes out of his sophomore year. He looks like he's much better as a junior, more confident, and makes better stops against the run. Like, he'd be arguably top three. So, like, you could say he's arguably top three.
Well, as of right now, going into camp, based on what they've done in their careers and what they did last season, that's why I'm saying it that way.
Fair enough.
So, like I said, I wouldn't put Burns in just because of the fact he hasn't played for us yet. He hasn't played a single game as a Giant. So, I just don't know where you want to put Andrew Thomas and Bobby Okereke, because to me, Dexter Lawrence is the top. But either way, let's say he's at the very least top five.
Yes.
Great on that. So 27 years old, so still in the prime of his career, though. He just turned 28 in July, so there goes that prime. No kidding.
Wow.
He's still got a few more years to go. They're easily 6'1", 235, third round pick of the Colts from Stanford University, Pinkies out, back in 2019. There signed this past offseason. Obviously, got this one, the one prior, 23, a 4-year, $40 million contract. Last year, 149 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 6 QB hits, 2 interceptions, 10 passes deflected, 4 forced fumbles. Every single one of those was career high, except tackles, where he was short by 2 whole tackles. That's it. 78.9 PFF grade. That's a damn good season. Good season. So, his contract gave him a lot of stuff to build up to, a lot of stuff to kind of go, okay, yeah, I'm worth this, because let's be honest here. We talked about it going into it. He was very much overpaid based on what everybody else got in the linebacker group. We signed him pretty quickly. And like I said, it's a $10 million a year contract he's got. And you looked at that season at guys who were making $4 or $5 million later on, 6-7% of the top end stuff. He was one of the biggest linebacker contracts given. And we all knew he was a good player, but he kind of lived in the shadow of Shaq Leonard for a couple of years there at Indy. We weren't quite sure what he was as far as being the top dog, so to speak, there. Had a good last year, though, when Shaq was hurt there in Indy. So, but yeah, he lived up to that contract. That's for damn sure. If anything, I could easily say he's exceeded that contract, which was crazy to say.
I was going to ask you that next. It's like, do you think he lived up to it?
Yeah.
That's going to sound yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's to me, if anything, he's exceeded it. If he was a free agent this past year, after the year he had, he would probably be making $15 to $20 million. That's how good of a season he had. And this guy could end up going from a guy that we go, was it too much money, to this was one of the best contracts ever given out free agency wise to a New York Giant. Going up to the ranks of the guys like, Plexico Burress, Intro Roll, some of those kind of guys. Like, that's how good and that's I feel about the signing now after his first year. We'll see if I still feel that in 3 more years, but as of right now. Yeah, a lot can change. Listen, a lot can. It really can. I mean, you see players all the time, all of a sudden the ability gets zapped, or they get one injury, they're never the same. So not that I'm obviously thinking that's going to happen with Bobby, but things do happen in the NFL. So, hopefully it continues to be the way it was last year. And we look back on that and, he's going to be, like I said, 28 this season. So he's going to be 30 basically when that contract is up. And hopefully we get him for a couple more years after that, because a lot of the best linebackers, they still go through their lower 30s at that point. It's kind of like their mid 30s when they start losing it a little bit there. So, he could be a Giant for a long time there. And you can easily say he's one of the best linebackers we've had in quite a long time as well. On top of that, I mean,
it's very, very fair to say.
We said we signed him. He might be very well the best linebacker we've had since the often injured John Beeson, who was, didn't play a lot because of the injury issues, but was a great player when he was healthy. And, going back to Antonio Pierce, again, after this past season, I can make the case that he's better than those two guys were. Antonio Pierce was a beast, don't get me wrong. And his leadership was probably his best skill, which is why he's now an NFL head coach. He's got that leadership abilities, that leader, capabilities that not every player has. But
before I make that statement, I want to see what he does. I'm not going to judge it off of one season.
Well, I'm saying, but we kind of have to, right? That's what we got. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot right now, Rob. Go for it. Is he better? Is he better?
Antonio Pierce.
You're going Antonio Pierce? Okay.
And it's not disrespect to Okereke.
No, it's not.
Just the sample size. You're talking about years with the Giants, year with the Giant.
I hear you on that, but that's all we have to go based on right now. So sometimes
I'm a scientist, damn it. Crazy, but the sample size is too small.
What kind of scientist are you? Exactly.
There's not enough sample size.
I'm just saying, I think it's something that we could easily be saying at that point there,
But you're not wrong. Like, you could sit there and I can see what you're saying. Like, Okereke had a fantastic year.
Jay suggests, do not be on the spot. Do not be on the spot.
I'm going to be on the spot.
All right. So, I mean, again, I see it continuing. I guess the only concern I have really with him is he has his best, career year there. And that 1 year he has with Wink Martindale. We got Shane Bowen, obviously, coming in from Tennessee. It's a different defense entirely. We know that this is a team that Brian Dable probably will get more involved with the defense this year than he has the last two. But he's still not a defensive coach.
He dived in. No, he dived in a little bit. He took Wink and listened to Wink as much as he did because, he did the backstroke.
Michael Phelps of coaching over here. I guess diving. No. Is it Greg Louganis? Who's a famous diver? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
we talk about synchronized swimming or curling. I would know those.
Definitely. But
got him all flustered. He's like, I don't know what to talk about now.
You put me on the spot. I'm just saying, Wink Martindale was not
Jay, do not be on the spot. Do not be
I'm on the spot. But
that comment might get pulled up a few times during this topic today.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, Wink Martindale was not with Indianapolis Colts. And Okereke played pretty well over there. And he comes over to the Giants, had almost all his career highs, very close to what he had when he had his best year with the Colts. So it's not saying that Wink Martindale made Okereke play that well.
Oh, no.
That's the talent around him, and the coaching definitely did help. But he still got talent around him and good coaching.
Let me be clear. I'm not suggesting that Wink made Bobby Okereke.
I didn't
Bobby
say
Okereke. I'm just being clear because you said it that way, and I want to make sure people understand where I'm coming from. I'm not suggesting that. He was a good player before he came here. It's just he had his career best season. So now, again, I'm saying, can he replicate this with a new DC? And I think he can. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that he won't or that he's going to be a bust this year. That's not the conversation I'm having. What I'm saying is you have to at least consider that there'll be somewhat of a change in his role and his production potentially in a new defense. That's not crazy to say.
It's not at all, because the schemes are going to be different. We're not going to blitz 1,005% of the time. Pretty sure they're going to lower that number just a smidge.
Might not get those 2.5 sacks this year.
Yeah. But it's going to be a different scheme. But he still got talent around him.
100%.
So
you have more talent around him.
That's what I'm saying. You can't run the edge as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, pass rush the edge, as well. You still got Thibodeau to worry about a little bit over there. But you got Sexy Dex. He's going to be utilized.
Yeah.
And I think that talent it could exacerbate his talent because they're might have to run up the middle closer to where he is.
Yeah. The only other question I have with him, and I'm just thinking, I didn't even put this in the show notes here. I'm just thinking about it as we're talking. And I hate to kind of be the negative guy in this whole thing, but Rob, you're being so damn positive. And it's like I have to kind of, to a certain degree, bring these things up. And it's not negative Nancy. It's Debbie Downer. Debbie Downer. Oh, yes. But I have to at least bring these things up here because the other thing to kind of think about here is, does he get affected at all by the defensive line? That's one group we talked about that's kind of potentially going to take a step back this year, even though we like, obviously, Dexter Lawrence. We said before he's the best player of the team. But besides him and Nacho, who was a little bit disappointment there last year, you have a bunch of young guys that are unproven. Well, the loss of an Ashawn Robinson and Leonard Williams, obviously he dealt with the second half of the year without Leonard Williams, but he still had Ashawn Robinson. Will that affect potentially? Will that stop him being freed up because he'll get blockers onto him? Those kind of things. That's something else to consider as well. But only time will tell on that because it all depends on the development of the defensive line.
No, you're not wrong to say that. And then also in the same turnaround, they're gonna have, if they get through the line, who's going to stop them?
Yeah, and that's, like I said, it's one of those things that he might get more tackles because of that as well. You're not wrong there, So again, it's just something to kind of keep an eye on there because that's the only differences you're looking at is what could affect his play this year is the change of the coaching staff and the change of who's in front of him on that defensive line. Other than that, he's the same player. He's still young. He's still in his prime. He's got better edge rush around him, which depending on how that works out with the blitzing going down and the edge rusher quality being better with Brian Burns added, quarterbacks may be prone to make more mistakes as well or take shorter passes, which also increases production. So, again, there's pros, there's cons, there's everything. You got to see what happens year by year, little things like that affect the production of a player. But Bobby Okereke, flat out, is a beast. And I don't expect that to change this year.
And he also sounds like Okereke, which is
everybody keeps saying Okereke and all this stuff like that. I don't understand. The man's name is Okereke. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's really not. I understand when you first see it, it's a little difficult, but once you say it once or twice, it's not that difficult. It really isn't.
Yeah, every time I pronounce it, I think about Okereke.
I still see,
Okereke.
but I still see media people and content creators saying his name wrong. It's like, gee, she's been a Giant for a year now. If you made this mistake, we first signed him. I get it to a certain degree. Then
Yeah.
Do your research, but
maybe have a conversation with the guy. I don't know.
Well, listen,
Not
I don't
like we
think it's
did.
exactly easy to get a hold of. It's not like, we sent him
He's
a
a big guy.
congratulations. We sent him a congratulations message when he first got signed by the Giants. Actually, we didn't hear anything back.
He's too busy being a Giant.
Too busy talking to Jordan Ronan and Pat Traina. That's what
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to the next guy here for us. And this was potentially one of the best surprises of the 2024 defense last year. And that was the emergence of one Micah McFadden, who going into the year, when we talked about who was going to start alongside Bobby Okereke, we all thought it was another young player we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Micah McFadden did not impress too much the first year. Not that he was a bad rookie his first season.
He didn't embarrass himself, we'll say. But he also, I mean, he didn't show the best promise.
No, he looked like an average late round draft pick rookie, which is not bad. There's plenty of guys that bust out in where he was drafted at that point and never even play an actual game in the NFL. So, like, I'm not knocking the man when I say it that way. So here's the stats on him real quick here. So 24 years old, 6'2", 232. He's a 5th round pick in 22 out of Indiana. Last season, 16 games, 14 starts, 101 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 6 QB hits, 1 interception, 5 passes deflected, 4 fumbles recovered, a 65.6 PFF grade. Now, it does go without saying that most of those are all career highs as well, as he barely played the first season. But
let's say when you go from a freshman to a sophomore, you do that.
From a backup to a starter, I mean,
yeah.
But all like the whole entire offseason long, it's like and we were like, okay, we think Darian Beaver's going to get it. Then he doesn't get it. Doesn't even make the active rosters of the season. Oh, Jared Davis is going to get it. He gets injured in training camp, and it's kind of like Micah McFadden was the last guy we expected to be a starter pretty much going into this. And
he stepped into that role and looked as best as he could have. Like, I'm not saying he looked fantastic, but he did a good job for the situation. Yeah. Like, I'm trying to tread lightly. Like, I'm not trying to, you can't hype him up too much because he wasn't all pro. But at the same time, he did a damn good job and a lot better than a lot of people thought he could be.
If you were to tell me that we were going to draft a player in the 5th round who would get over 100 tackles his second season in the NFL, that's a win, guys.
Yeah.
That's a freaking win and a half. That's a winner.
We drafted him in the 5th round. It'd be like next season, not this season, come next season, he gets 100 tackles plus.
Yeah.
He'd be like, okay. It'd be in the practice squad.
Yeah. I mean, that's, like I said, that's pretty damn good rookie season to have there. So I'll take it. I would say second season to have it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
The question is, can he gain a little more consistency? Because I feel like some games you heard his name like every 2 minutes, and some games he kind of disappeared. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were some games that you watched. Yeah. Like, he made amazing plays left and right. And there was other games you barely heard his name called at that point. So, I think he needs to gain a little consistency. Again, he was a second-year player, a first-year starter. He's going to have some issues, guys. If you're expecting perfection that early on, you're going to be disappointed. That's life.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I'm kind of curious to see what happens and how he develops this year, because this is year 3. Year 3 is that year that you really start getting to know what you got. Like, if you haven't developed by year 3, chances are you're probably not going to develop into something. So,
hey, there's some late bloomers out there.
There are some.
Saying.
But there's not a lot. The high percentage of them get better and better as they start the league. They don't go like boop, boop. Like it just doesn't work that way.
Sometimes
I had the sound
take a
effect
minute
for
right
the
away.
podcast people, by the way. For the audio people, I had the little sound effect. Still don't want to feel left out.
Yeah, for
But
everyone out there in podcast land, Drew just went from 6 to midnight, and now it's the sound effect.
Exactly. But that's what does happen, though, sometimes in the NFL, but it's not very often. Typically, it's a gradual ascension to become whatever your peak is going to be in your career. And usually year 3 is when you really see what that peak is going to be. So, I'm intrigued. I'm curious as far as what that ceiling is going to be for Micah McFadden. But I'll say this. I think he's already doing a good job as a second linebacker. We got a stud at linebacker number 1. You can't expect to have a stud everywhere. That's just not realistic, especially the salary cap days. He's a good linebacker. Not a great one. He's a good one. The question is, does he develop into becoming a great one eventually? I don't think so, but you never know.
But as long as he has Okereke next to him,
exactly,
he doesn't have to be great.
No,
he has to be good, and it'll just fall into his lap.
I'll make this claim even. This is going to sound a little crazy because I'm thinking far in advance. I always kind of think long term.
This is crazy. Drew's prediction. Tell us maybe.
This is a little goofball. In a couple of years, we got 2 more years. You have to go ahead and look at, are you going to go ahead and re-sign this guy? Now, let's say, for example, he ends up staying. Can we keep him in Okereke?
That's a good chance.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, if he develops, let's say he develops into a great player. Okay, let's say hypothetically for a second there.
Okay.
You get to re-sign him in a couple of years. You're probably not going to be able to afford to keep him in Okereke long term. That's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking at disaster. But we talked before about Okereke saying, you know what, he could be here long term. He's still in his late 20s. Linebackers typically play into their, don't really decline until their early mid 30s at that point there. Well, here's a guy that might replace him potentially if he gets that good, and then you keep him, and you're going to have to probably let Okereke walk after the end of this contract. Like I said, I'm thinking long term here.
That's a great hypothetical that probably won't happen, but that's a great hypothetical if it does happen. You're probably right. That's the way it's going to happen because Okereke is going to get a lot more money than McFadden because.
Well, no, McFadden would have to get a lot more money if he turns out to be great because.
Yeah, but he's not going to get the same amount of money as Okereke. That's what I'm saying.
No, he get more.
Then
again, you got to consider the fact that Okereke is making less money than he would have based on what he did, this past season. If he was a free agent now, he'd be making $15 to $20 million. So what's going to happen in 2 years when you have to look at re-signing McFadden? Like I said, this is a great problem to have.
You're right, but
I'm just saying these are things that you got to look at as potentials in a couple of years. I'm looking way too far down the line. I know.
You are.
I know. It's okay.
There's too much things to happen. Oh my God.
So, like I said, it's a good problem to have there. And he might just develop into stay what he is right now. If he stays what he is right now, then he's probably going to be a guy who's going to be, get a mid-level contract, and you keep both of them. You just don't know. I'm just looking at long-term prospects there with them.
That's what I see more happening than anything.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's the more likely scenario. Like I said, I'm just putting a weird scenario out there if he does happen to become like a really great linebacker at that point. Because he's still, I don't think he's peaked yet. I just don't know how high that peak's going to go.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If he gets to the level of Okereke, you're probably gonna have to. When's Okereke's contract have? 2 years.
He's got 3 more years to go. It's a 4-year deal.
Years to go. And when it comes to McFadden,
he's got 2 more years to go before he had to sign him. Well, I'm saying it's going to coincide those contracts where they're close enough where this is going to be part of the decision.
Yeah, My thing too is
those two will affect what happens.
I don't think the Giants are going to sit there and pay. Too hypothetical. We don't need to go down this rabbit hole right now. We got another couple of years before we have to have this conversation.
All right. And then before we get into our next player here, we have a special guest that's popped up here in the chat here. This is the man who has sponsored this episode here, Dakota Hammonds, by signing up at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoopballs and is joined up there. Appreciate you, man. Definitely, appreciate all the times you popped into shows, man, but definitely appreciate it. And he says, have a Weineken. I'll just have some wine with some cheese in my wine. He says that, but it's like the one position last year the Eagles really did stink at is the linebackers. They were signing 40-year-old guys off the streets. Next up, we got to talk about the man who has no position, the positionless, the guy that everybody
trades.
Yeah, the jack of all trades, but the master of none. And that's Isaiah Simmons. That's what he is. This is the guy to keep in mind. He's still just 25 years old. He's still young. He's only, he does turn 26 in July, but he's still this, the same age basically as people that got out of this draft here. And then with that, 8th overall pick back in 2020 has so much high expectations. 6'4", 238 pounds. This past season, 17 games, 4 starts, 50 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 QB hit, 1 interception. And that interception was a game-ending 54-yard touchdown interception against the Washington Commanders there. I keep on forgetting what the hell to call them. 3 passes deflected, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery there. I really think that the big thing for me is and I know he's had several defensive coordinators now, can Shane Bowen figure out how to use this guy right? Because
I would think so.
And I guess part of that question is there a right way to use him right? Because multiple people have tried. It's not like he's been like under one coach who just can't figure out how to use this guy. He just has this weird set of skills that the whole time you're like, is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Is he a pass rusher? He even plays a little slot corner. Like, where do you put this guy? And I like him as a backup for those reasons. That's the weird thing to say. But I like him as a backup for that reason. Because he could be a linebacker. He can be a safety. You could throw him all these different places at that point. And when you have injury issues, which I know is going to sound a little shocking to the Giant fans out there. We would never have those. But it's like, here's a guy that you can put a lot of different places. The issue is...
the Giants are coming out with a new Fisher-Price set. It's Mommy Wow, I just tore my ACL now.
Oh, my God. Isn't that the pull-ups thing? Are you used for that? Like the Mommy Wow, a big boy now, or whatever. But, I mean, he's, like I said, he's got so much hype around him because of where he was drafted. People thought he was going to change the way the NFL was played at that point there. Here is this guy he's a hybrid player. He's going to succeed anywhere he goes. And it's like, instead, he just doesn't embarrass himself anywhere he goes. He doesn't succeed. He doesn't embarrass himself.
He's somewhere in between that.
So we think he's good everywhere he goes? Is that the word you would use?
What's the word between decent and good? Above average?
Slightly subpar?
Yes.
Is that a term we're going to use now? He's slightly subpar wherever you put him. But I mean, that's the thing though. And I feel like there's these delusional group of fans that always think that they can figure out exactly how to fix this guy. Or somebody's going to all of a sudden flip a switch and he's going to become this great player people thought he was going to be. That's not how it works, guys. That's not how it's going to work.
You know who he kind of reminds me of on the other side of the ball? Is Taysom Hill down in New Orleans. if you're not familiar with Taysom Hill, fantasy owners, especially if you're playing like DraftKings, Taysom Hill is on the roster as a tight end, but he's very famous to know to go in Wildcat and become the quarterback, or even just start as a quarterback, or line up as a receiver. But he's classified as a tight end. Is he a great quarterback? No, but he has some great games as quarterback. Is he a great receiver? No, but he'll get you a couple hundred yards every now and then.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
he's not the dependable guy, but if you utilize him right in certain different plays and against certain different teams, he looks good in certain positions and then subpar in others.
slightly subpar.
Yeah, slight subpar.
Like I said, I don't know. I like him as a backup. I just don't think he's ever gonna reach the what people think he was gonna reach. And I think this is something that people are gonna have to go ahead and come to grips with that. Like, we gotta stop wondering, is he ever gonna be this great player? He's not going to be. He's been long enough, Like, there is still a topic of discussion. Yeah. Are we going to re-sign him this year? Not, oh my God, we need to. Are we going to? He's going into his 5th year in this league. I mean, yeah. It's crazy. So, well, we're going to live in realism and say he's slightly subpar everywhere he goes. And he's a decent backup to have for that reason. So, let's get into the next guy here, because we got to talk about the rookie from UCLA, Darius Muasau. And listen, we talked about this guy a lot already because he just got drafted. I don't want to beat the dead horse here. You keep doing it every time we talk about it. Again, to give you guys the quick rundown stat-wise, 23 years old, 6'1", 230 pounds, 6th-round pick, 83rd overall this year for the Giants out of UCLA, previously played in Hawaii, or as the natives there say, Hawaii. I learned that when I went there. They say it a little different than we did.
With the V?
Yeah. It's that's how they pronounce it there. At least that's what the tour guide told me, who was native Hawaiian. He legit was native Hawaiian for generations and generations. It's not just part of the ticket price to say that.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
That's what told me. Anyway, last year at UCLA, 13 games, 75 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 1 interception, 5 passes deflected, an 81.7 PFF grade there. I think the big thing is we got to do with this guy. Because I don't want to talk too much about what he can do and stuff like that. Listen, guys, we've done the draft profile on this guy. We've done all this kind of talk on this guy. Go to that stuff there. We'll give you the full rundown of everything he can do on the field. I think the bigger thing to talk about is what do we expect from this year at this point. And I got to say that I can't think that we have that high of expectations of him because of the fact he was a 6th overall pick. Now, that might be a little crazy because we just started praising, 10 minutes ago, the 5th overall pick.
5th round.
Yeah, it says that 5th overall pick. Yeah. And now
this is 5th overall. I was like,
no. Oh, I might have said that by accident.
That's why I was like, 5th round.
Yeah, 5th round pick, and now we're talking about a 6th round pick. Talking about don't have high expectations. A 5th round pick succeeding is not typical. A 6th round pick succeeding is not typical. You have to come in with low expectations. These guys are guys you hope to develop. You hope can have a spot on the team. You hope they can do something like that. You don't know what they're gonna. You have no clue what they're gonna be. So I think the expectations are, as you see Rob laughing hysterically, as Dakota and Connor are going at it in the comment section like crazy. But
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to put this one up here. Dakota, I don't like putting your comments up because you're a big Eagles fan, but that's
he did sponsor the show today, so
yeah. This is classic.
He did sponsor the show today. But, you look at this guy and you go, what's the expectation is to have a role? The expectations could be, him helping on special teams. We lost out on one of the, the big special team guys we had there. The Penn State great over there, the guy who wouldn't even ever step foot on the actual defense there. We have to look at someone to replace him now on special teams and being a good tackler on special teams. Is that where he helps? Can he be the dependable backup linebacker? He has good coverage skills. Can he help with that? Which, let's be honest, has been an issue since the dawn of time for the Giants to cover a tight end. Are these things that could help? Are these things that we could change up and fix, with him? And I don't know. But I think that's probably his ceiling. That's probably his ceiling at that point, is to see what he can do to go ahead and be just a dependable guy on the bench that pops out and makes a little bit of an impact on special teams. That's probably where the realistic thought should be with him.
Yeah, especially, 6th round pick. He's a rookie. You don't know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah. Like I said,
don't have high expectations. Like you're probably 100% hit it on the head, dude. He's probably going to be special teams, possibly with a backup. Maybe, 3rd and long, put him in to help cover some tight ends. Like I wouldn't hold your breath and watching this guy break out this year.
No, and like I said, I don't think that we should have, any kind of, crazy expectations at this point of him. I mean, he's going to be probably a special team guy, Is Dakota and Connor still going? These two are just. Yeah. We should just start having a comedy show just on their comments alone at that point. Just let it go back and forth. We'll just give them the link and let these two guys go on the show. Just take over. All right, let's get into. Let's get into the guy who was.
Hey guys, just sleep with each other, get over with.
Wow. Took it to a whole nother level there. A whole nother level.
I can show you this level.
Let's get to the guy who's probably the biggest disappointment of this group the last year here. And that's Darian Beavers.
Hashtag save our Beavers.
Yeah, we had some high hopes for this guy. We really did going into the season. We kind of thought that we saw him in the preseason. Again, it's preseason. Let's be honest. We know with preseason, it's not regular season. Things change from going to preseason to regular season, But he looked really good in preseason. He started taking that, starting linebacker job during preseason, tears his ACL, never plays it down that entire regular season, comes in year 2, and we thought he would just kind of take over that spot because he just looked so good. But he doesn't even make the active roster, guys. Goes in the practice squad, pops in for 2 games last season, doesn't have a single stat to speak of. So I don't know what kind of expectation we should really have. I mean, we do talk about it all the time, that it takes, your second year coming back from an ACL for most people to really regain form. And I get that. But when you, in that first year, appear in 2 games, you don't have a single stat line. I get there's nowhere to go but up. But how far up is realistic to think at that point?
I mean, just because you don't have a stat line doesn't mean you're going to go up, because you have negative stat lines, which means you
have negative 1 tackle. You can't have negative 1 tackle.
Well, you can watch this guy and everyone runs by him. He doesn't stop anything. Like,
what do you do? Pick the guy up off the field. Here, hold on. Go back.
Let me tack you for a gain.
But I guess my thought process with him is, again, it's like I said, where is the thought on what he's going to be? Where's the ceiling here? And I think the ceiling is probably going to be, again, I hate to say, because we had such higher hopes from just 2 years ago, But I think the big thing is that his ceiling is probably backup special team helper. I think that's probably the best we can expect him at this point. And that's probably safe to say because you don't go from what he did last year to taking Micah McFadden's job.
No, it's not happening.
No. So if he can be a quality backup that also contributes in special teams, that's probably his ceiling. And his floor is probably practice squad around the NFL.
I mean, you just talked about hypothetically having McFadden being so good that we have to re-sign him at a crazy amount of money.
And that's why I'm saying. Again, we did talk about that as a possible but not a likely scenario, just to clarify for those who didn't watch that segment. But yeah, like I said, I don't see him taking that job from him, so I don't think it's realistic to expect him to develop into a starting linebacker. But if he can be a quality backup, guy who gets maybe 40 tackles, contributes in special teams, that's not a bad year for him.
No, I mean, you got a guy is rookie. You don't see any rookie numbers because tears the ACL right before last season. Well, this prior season comes back and, like you said, does nothing. You don't have any expectations for this guy. How can you? How can you predict where he's going to go?
Remember that Mad TV segment? We're going to age ourselves. That Mad TV segment they used to have that to compete with SNL. They had the dating show. Lowered expectations.
Yes. Bobby Lee at it.
Like, that's what I feel like this is where we're at. Like, we had such high expectations for him last year because we were hoping he's going to come back, be healthy, take over from where he was that prior preseason. And instead, he just doesn't even make the roster.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Okereke and Beavs. Hashtag save our beaver.
You just want to keep saying hashtag save our beavers. I'm on to you.
100%.
I thought so. All right, let's get into our next guy here. We got the newcomer here, the free agent acquisition here of this group, Matthew Adams. And this is a legitimate veteran, guys, which is something we don't typically, I feel like, sign to any of the backup spots for the linebacker. Now we haven't done that in a while. Like, here's a reserve linebacker with a ton of experience. Let's sign him. Like, that's not been our MO. 28 years old, 6 foot even, 230 pounds, 7th round pick out of Houston. I should say Houston, the college there, not the Houston Texans. Drafted by the Colts there in 18. Former Brown, former Colts. Spent most of his career, though, in Indianapolis. Appeared in 85 games overall, with 13 of them being starts. Last year with the Browns, 17 games, 1 start, 17 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and a very sad-looking 44.2 PFF grade.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah. So, again, I don't think we can have high hopes of this guy. I think this is a guy that you go, does he sneak onto the roster at the back end? And I gotta say, I think the locks for this roster are obviously, you're not going to cut Okereke or McFadden, obviously. You're not going to cut Simmons, obviously. You're not going to cut a rookie, obviously. There's 4 right there. We probably have 1 more spot to go, guys. I don't think Adams is going to be the guy to get it. I think he's probably camp body. That's what we're looking at. Unless there's injuries, unless he, does better than we think, he's probably just a camp body.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, I don't know why we do the Hot Pockets thing with camp body. We do. It is what it is.
Ooh. Nice gooey center. Camp body.
Who are you going to cut? Camp body. I mean, that's basically what it is. Like, he's that's probably where he's doomed for. I hate to be like negative about it. It's still a man's job, but either he's going to earn a spot and surprise people, or hopefully he gets another shot somewhere else at that point there. But it happens every year for these guys. He's 28 years old. He's been a career backup. He didn't have a good year last year. That kind of tells you time is ending for his NFL career, probably. And
typically, I would agree with you, but last year he played for the Browns.
You'd never agree with me. I'm not buying that bullshit.
Well, when it comes to father time and age, it definitely gets us all. But he played with the Browns.
I know that feeling. I'm excited.
Yeah, Buck still.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I just pulled a muscle. Anyway.
Yeah, seriously. Don't stretch too hard.
Who did he play for the Browns last year? Did he not? I said, who did he play for last year?
The Browns.
Yeah. And they were what? You could arguably say top 3 defense last year, right?
Yes.
Because they had a bunch of
I know where you're going with this.
Just saying.
I hear you.
I'm not going to put Father Time as a reason why he didn't see the field as much. Or you got a guy like, there's a lot of talent on that team that played a lot of downs where he wasn't utilized to his full potential, even with Father Time.
I'm not talking about Father Time for the playing time he got. Okay, let me be very clear on that. He's been a career backup. That is what I expect him to stay. What I've been talking about as far as him is his skill. So he's 28 years old. He's never been a starter. He's not going to be a starter at this point. That's when you start going, you know what? I'm not going to give a 28-year-old guy a spot that I can give to a 23-year-old that I might be able to develop into something. I've already seen this guy's ceiling. It's not that high.
No, but if you're in a pinch and you need to plug a hole, like he still have
a
couple.
And that's why I said if someone gets injured or whatever, you can maybe see him in a spot there at that point there. But otherwise, I think that's what happens. All right. We got one more linebacker to talk about, guys. And that's a guy that we cut. He said goodbye. And then he said hello.
With arms wide open.
Hello. Yeah. Carter Coughlin, who is, we call him a linebacker because that's what the Giants call him. But let's be honest, he's a special teamer. That's all he is.
Yeah.
And I should say that's all he is. That sounds so negative to say it that way. Like special teams are important, but still, like he's not really a guy who plays defense at all. 26 years old, turns 27 in July, 6'3", 236 pounds. Drafted in 2020 in the 7th round at a Minnesota, don't you know there. Last year, played in all 17 games, 9 tackles. That sounds pretty bad until you realize that every single one of them was a special teams tackle. And that's actually a high number for a special team tackle. He averages playing at 86% of the special team snaps over the last 3 years, including 397 special team snaps this past season. Has just 47 snaps on defense in those 3 years, including just 2 last season. 2. In a weak Martindale defense that loves to move people around and add things in all over the place, 2 snaps.
2 time.
And I'm not 2 snaps into a Z formation. I'm not talking like that here. I'm talking 2 snaps on defense. That's it, okay? So they bring back a little Jim Carrey in living color. We've now referenced Mad TV and in living color in this episode. Just saying. Absolutely spectacular. Exactly. So
Jim Carrey's Vanilla Ice was fantastic, by the way.
He was very good at that. But again, we know what he is. We've seen what he is. And I'm not going to have high expectations for a guy that we already know where he is, where he's at. We've already seen where he's at. He's going to continue another year doing what he's been doing as far as being a piece that shows up on special teams. And that's going to be the extent of him, like that's his ceiling. We already know his ceiling. And this is why I was saying that before with Matthew Adams. There reaches a certain age where you've maxed out. You're not going to probably get better. You don't all of a sudden become better at 30 years old in the NFL. Not unless you've been working out with Barry Bonds. So,
no, you get a size 3X glove
and a size 4X helmet.
Yeah.
So, like I said, not a bad group overall. It could be better, it could be worse, but the big question is not could be better is should they sign a free agent to this group? Should we add into the mix here? And you look at who's available, and sometimes you get these groups and you go, okay, wow, there's not really much available. There's actually some big name linebackers still available and out there, guys. So, first off, you'll have a guy that Dakota knows pretty well that has sponsored the show here today, being the Eagle fan he is. Shaq Leonard, 28 years old, 6'2", 230 pounds, 3-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All Pro, 1-time second team All Pro, and the 2018 Defensive Rookie of the Year. Played last year with the Colts and the Eagles, 14 games, 12 starts, 88 tackles, 1 sack, 1 QB hit, and a 62.8 PFF grade there. Now, keep in mind, he was playing in 2023 after missing most of 22 with back injuries there and wasn't very happy the way he was used by the Colts and requested a trade midseason. But his numbers definitely dipped with the Eagles there. Yep. He left there saying he wasn't me.
But say all their numbers dipped last year at that time of the year.
But yeah, he was definitely, definitely part of that falling out they had in that second half where, even the Giants beat the crap out of the Eagles there. But you got to wonder, could he, with another, you talked about the ACL injuries before, sometimes takes a year or so. Back injuries are crazy. So you got to wonder, could he ever return back to what he was? There's that possibility. Maybe it just took him a year or two to get healthy. Or if he goes back to 75% of what he was, that's still a damn good player. That's still something. You also got another veteran there from the Eagles as well. Zach Cunningham, 29 years old, 6'3", 230 pounds, led the league in tackles and solo tackles back in 2020. Last year with the Eagles, 13 games, 10 starts, 85 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a QB hit, and 4 passes deflected and a fumble recovery, 69.4 PFF grade. Another guy that's got a lot of experience, guy that's still got something in the tank, may not be the player he once was, but he's still got something in the tank there. You got Quan Alexander, 29 years old, 6'1", 227 pounds, 1-time Pro Bowler, also led the league in solo tackles back in 2016. Was a long-time Buck. Last year with the Steelers, 9 games, 2 starts, 41 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, a sack, 2 QB hits, interception, pass deflected, and a fumble forced there with a 59.0 PFF grade. So PFF didn't seem to like him too much, but at this point in his career, he's a backup. So, do you want to grab somebody that might be a decent backup and kind of, have a little better reserves than we got now? That's a possibility. You got another guy had a lot of time, spent last year in the field. Josh Woods, 27 years old, 6'1", 230 pounds, played last year with the Cardinals, 11 games, 7 starts, 61 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, half a sack, 1 QB hit, 1 forced fumble, but just a 31.8 PFF grade. He's got 65 games under his belt for his career, 8 of them as a starter. Like I said, 7 of those 8 were last year with the Cardinals when they were basically desperate and had nobody else to play the position. I need somebody.
Help!
But, I look at the group we have now, and I don't think we really should bring another linebacker, barring any kind of injury. I mean, you got Bobby Okereke is a stud. So the real question really boils down to, do any of these players represent an upgrade over Micah McFadden? Shaq Leonard could if he can return to form he was before injury.
That's if.
And that's a big if, because it's been a couple of years now since he's been his top self. Even the year before, he was battling a little bit of injuries too. So, but you also have to consider if you sign somebody like a Shaq Leonard, it's a one-year deal probably.
Most likely.
So in the long term, you've stifled the growth of Micah McFadden to get 1 year out of a guy who you're hoping could come back from injury.
And it's not like we're running for a Super Bowl this year. So
no. I think that's why I'm saying I don't think it's the right move to make. I really don't. I think the right move for us to make is just sit tight. Let's see what this group is, and if they stay healthy, leave them as they are. Or if you need to get a bench piece, maybe you go ahead and grab somebody off the streets like that to be a bench piece. But it's got to be a team friendly deal because it's not our biggest need. We have plenty of needs in this roster still. Here it is, end of May. We still have plenty of needs on this team.
3 quarterbacks. Backup
linebackers, probably. We need 3 quarterbacks. It's just not the biggest need, guys. So, I won't say it's the craziest move for us to add somebody to this group, but I won't say it's the immediate need.
No.
So, let's get into the all-important question we always ask with these groups here. Is the 2024 linebacker group better or worse than the 2023 linebacker group? It's a tough one.
It is, because, you got to think about the roster. Has it changed that much?
No.
But the big question you got to think about, and time's going to tell, at least in my opinion, because what's the big difference? We do got a lot of rookies, kind of hanging around at the low end, but no Wink.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing. How do they play
difference
with this new defensive coaches? Because there's not just Wink that's gone. There's a lot.
Yeah. New position coaches all over too. And I think the other factor is also how do the young guys grow? Does Micah McFadden continue to grow and get better? Does Beavers get healthier and grow into at least a decent backup for this roster?
Can he bring back the hashtag?
Probably not. He has to get injured for us to bring the hashtag back again. But those are the 2 things that matter, because it's the same group basically. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, it's a totally different group. We picked up Matthew Adams.
Whoop-de-doo, Basil.
You say whoopsie-doo, Basil? Are you quoting Faulty Towers right now?
Austin Powers.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Faulty Towers. Which, by the way, if nobody's seen that, spectacular old school British comedy with John Cleese. Absolutely spectacular. It's really good. Kind of very offensive nowadays, but so it makes it
a lot of old movies.
Yeah. No, it's a show. It was on for years on the BBC, and they actually tried like 3 times to bring it to the US, I think, or something like that, and make an American version of it. Remember, right? The last time they had John Larroquette from The Night Court. They had him attempt to play the main character that John Cleese played in the British version. So, but yeah, never get done. Anyway, so the answer is to the question, time will tell. Yes. We'll have to see if the group is better or not. It's impossible to say that because there's too many factors. Chances are it's probably not that much different than last year because of the fact that it's almost the same players. It's just those 2 things. Does the changes in coaching staff affect this group? And do the young players get better? So we'll have to see how that works here. So let's get into the day 3 here.
Should we talk about some of them? Should we talk about some Bills?
Hold on. I was about to say, let's get into day 3 here of the OTAs. Once we're done paying the bills.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All righty. And usually we'd go to the comments, but most of the comments are just Connor and Dakota fighting back and forth like children here. So.
And we already got Jay's comment, which was fantastic. So
let's go. Let's get into that OTA report here for this day 3. Day 3. And there's Malik Neighbors at his number 9. The big question is still going to be what number is he going to wear when the regular season starts here. But let's get into that day 3 here. So here's the notes we got straight from Giants.com. I don't want to take people's stuff without giving credit there. John Schmelk was their reporter they had there today. Daniel Jones took snaps during the 7-on-7s, which was kind of big news here. I mean, he's actually like doing live drills and stuff like that. He's planting his foot, it looks like, with no problem as well, based on the videos I saw. We found Malik Neighbors over the middle for a pass as well. I did see one circulating all over Twitter of him connecting also over the middle with Isaiah Hodgins, and everybody complaining about how the throw was off. Guys, it's practice. Let's not read into one pass. I get it.
Yeah.
We all want to prove that Daniel Jones is bad because that's your opinion. And again, he's not great. I'm not saying he's great. But let's give the man a chance to not knock him off of one okay pass he had across the middle
Slightly
to an okay
subpar
receiver. like it's just like people just look for a reason to bash this guy. I feel bad for him. Like Carl Banks was right. I do feel bad for the man at this point. Like, can we move on and stop the hate? It's not his fault we don't have a good quarterback. It's not his fault. That's Joe Shane's fault. Put your anger where it should be.
Yes.
God damn it.
That's
Caleb Hayes, rookie defensive back from BYU, also knocked down a ball thrown by DJ during the 7-on-7s. Kind of shocked that didn't get blasted over Twitter as well. The defense was basically pretty active there in the backfield all day long, including Brian Burns and Timon Fox. Darnay Holmes had a nice deflection. Darius Musau, who we talked about there a minute ago, the linebacker, who I'm still always pronouncing his name incorrectly. Who knows? Showed off some ability to cover tight ends. Deontay Banks deflected a pass. Dane Belton came from the center field to go ahead and prevent a completion and nearly got a leaping interception as well. Would have been a nice little highlight reel tape kind of thing. Rookie Andrew Phillips also looking pretty good there in coverage. Rookie tight end Theo Johnson caught a nice deep ball there. Malik Neighbors had the play of the day after creating more than 10 yards of separation on a nice double move there. That became a nice long pass from Drew Lock. I'm kind of curious who the double move was on because they never tell you. Like I said to you guys a couple episodes ago, they never tell you who got embarrassed. They only tell you who embarrassed them.
correct. I mean, so it's man, everyone's got to look good. It's like little kid sports these days. Everyone gets a trophy.
Yeah, everyone gets a trophy. That's not just little kids. That's also adult sports. Let's not forget our trophy we got last year. Jalen Hyatt also had a nice long reception from Tommy DeVito. And then, of course, Wandale Robinson, they said was open several times throughout the practice. They didn't list a single catch for him, but he was open apparently several times. So I'm not sure if that's good that he was open or bad that the quarterback couldn't throw the ball to the open guy. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I read the reports and I'm like, is that really a compliment? Like,
yeah. Who was covering him?
Yeah, exactly. That's the other part. Yeah, you're right. Tommy DeVito got to show off his speed there with a nice QB keeper as well. The line spent some time working with QBs and running backs identifying blitzes. Again, John Schmelk, who was the reporter that Giants.com had for this one here, commented on how impressed he is on how the new offensive line coach, Carmen Brasillo, is working to teach the mental part of the game. He says not a lot of yelling, just meticulous focus on the mental aspects, which I thought was kind of interesting because a lot of the issues we had, was the issue of them trying to figure out how to pick up blitzes, stunts, things of that nature. Like teams knew they can just do a simple stunt basically and go zoop right past the line and get right to the quarterback. The quarterback couldn't read it ahead of time. The lineman would get all confused and couldn't pick it up. I'm glad to see that I'm glad to see they're focusing on that. And there's gonna be some new linemen. We know at least two guys will be new to this offensive line right off the bat, and having John Running Jr., who's currently working out as a right guard, and Jermaine Illuminor is currently working out as the left guard, and we still think things might change at the right tackle position. Just saying. We'll have to see on that there, obviously. Graham Gano, who is noted also, has been kicking the last few days and looks not to be hampered by last year's injury, which is nice, especially after they trotted him out there that last game when he was clearly injured and made him miss a lot of field goals because he clearly was injured. Still don't know what the Giants were doing playing that man. Yeah. Also, defensive line coach Andre Patterson has been seen working with the edge defenders there, which I love to see that. I have a lot of respect for Andre Patterson and stuff he's done there with that defensive line. That's the only reason I'm not like freaking out over the fact that the defensive line is mostly unproven people besides Nacho and Sexy Dexy there, because Andre Patterson's a hell of a position coach. So I'm glad to see that. Hopefully we see big things out of that group because of that. So we got to go into, though, the last bit here we got, because we do got a little bit of Giants news.
It's time for the news.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into it first with Daniel Jones is not fired up about attempts to replace him. Shocker. Who would have thought? Like, it is big news today. Like, Daniel Jones was a little upset at that. The people tried to replace him. You think you gave him a $40 million a year contract, and then you tried to get rid of him the next year. Now, I am not saying, I'm not saying that it's ridiculous to go ahead and replace him. I would have loved to upgrade the position. Really would have loved to it. But you can't blame the guy you're trying to replace for being upset.
No,
like, who would have thought? Who would have thought? Like, I want to put you guys in this scenario. You get your current job. They offer you a huge raise, and then they're trying to get rid of you not too long after that. You're going to be a little disappointed too, aren't you?
And that they're trying to get rid of you, and potentially not give you all the money you want because you're doing different things.
Yeah, like I said, I don't blame them whatsoever. But you got to expect the guy's going to be a little upset. So the exact quote is, he said he wasn't fired up about it. He said, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. He's talking about the draft night. I wasn't sure what was going to happen or how it was going to play out. I was just watching and waiting to see like everyone else. Fired up about getting Malik. What I can do is focus on myself and getting healthy, playing the best football I can, and that I know I'm capable of playing. That's my job, and that's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, I mean, I part of me goes, why is this even news? What do you expect him to say? But the other part of me says, yeah, I get it. Daniel Jones is not the long-term answer, but he's not a bad answer he gave to the media. I mean, I'm telling you, like Daniel Jones is a great guy to be like the media relations coach for somebody later on.
He's been nothing but great when it comes to media.
Yeah.
Coming out of college, sitting there every press conference, everything he's done. Like he hasn't embarrassed himself for the team. He's always said they're pretty much the right things.
Yeah. And
even in bad situations.
I feel bad because I feel like people are going to like cheer when he gets done with his time with the Giants. And I think it should be a celebration to a certain degree of what he's done work-wise, while still acknowledging that the success hasn't been there, if that makes sense.
Yes, to me it does, but to a lot of fans that don't really care, I can definitely see that. But like the guy that put, I mean, probably 75, anywhere between 70 to 80. Yeah. Give or take that number. People were all about signing Dan Jones when we came to the contract. We're like, should we pay him? Should we not? It's a lot of money. He took us to the playoffs. We haven't been to the playoffs in a long time. We all expect him to play well. He didn't. Now we're all, reverse that number. There's maybe 20% of fans, maybe 30% of fans that are like, oh, he's still our quarterback. Let's see what he can do. And like Daniel Jones, like he's no dummy. Like he knows what is happening in the media. He knows what people are saying. I'm sure he has a social media account, and he's seen memes going around about himself. Yeah, and he's been nothing but humble and respectful to all the fans, even though a lot of us want.
Listen, we all want him to be a better player. Daniel Jones wants to be a better player.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me about people. Like, you can sit there and say, we need to replace him. He's not the long-term answer at quarterback. while still respecting the work the man is putting in. Those two things are not exclusive of each other.
No,
they're not. And I don't see why people can't seem to make that determination there like that. I'm like, this is a guy who works his tail off, well respected by his teammates, and has never had a Evan Neal burger flipping kind of moment at that point under all the pressure this man has dealt with in New York. Probably the hardest place to play quarterback in this league.
And like Evan Neal was under a lot of pressure. Daniel Jones was definitely hanging out with Bowie a lot more.
But like I said, I was a little shocked to see that was a huge news thing. So I kind of wanted to bring it up here on the topics here today, because everybody else seems to be a little shocked that he said that. Look, what do you expect him to say? Of course he's shocked. Of course he's not fired up about being replaced.
Yeah.
Except for this segment is being fired up about being replaced by the next segment. Because we got to talk about some joint practices here. We're talking about practice. Practice to talk about here. Because Dave will said that he is expecting joint practices this season with both the Lions and the Jets.
Well, no surprise there.
Well, the bigger shock would be if he was having a joint practice with the Jets and the Sharks. Boom, boom. But, I mean, this is exactly what we did last year, guys, and we got embarrassed when we practiced with the Lions. Absolutely goddamn embarrassed. And I'm really hoping that there's a change in how we practice this season. Because Rob and I have talked about it before. We thought the coaching staff was a little soft on the players this offseason. This past offseason, I should say, back in 23. So they didn't practice very hard. They weren't very physical. They got the crap kicked out of them by the Lions in joint practices. They barely played the starters at all in the preseason. And then the regular season, we got steamrolled week 1 by the Cowboys, and quite frankly, never recovered. Never recovered.
No.
So if we're going to do this joint practice thing, do it right.
Come in there.
Do it right.
Hard hitting, high flying. Boom.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah. I want to see Malik Neighbors off the top turnbuckle, dropping the Mondo elbow.
Do you smell what Malik Neighbors? I mean, that's what it's got to be. Like, Malik Neighbors is a classic example there. Like, this is a guy who's a young guy who wants to prove it in his rookie year. He's an elite receiver. And I think he's going to be playing with a little chip on that shoulder at that point of this offseason. I think he's going to come in that guy and say, I need to prove myself, especially when he gets his first chance to get on the field with other teams like that. So I just want to see a little rougher of an offseason for these players. Nothing crazy where they're getting hurt all the time and stuff like that. But, just something.
Correct. You don't need to play the full game of football, but we also don't need to play flag football.
Exactly. Exactly, guys.
And when we played the Lions last year, Lions came in pretty hard against us. Not saying they were going to the playoffs, but they were fired up, and we looked like we were playing grab ass and flag football all day long.
Yep, we were too soft on the players, point blank, too soft.
Yeah.
So we gotta practice with intensity. You can't just have them flip a switch at that point there. Every single time that they go on week 1, go, okay, here we go. Now it's the real season. It counts now. Like, no, you got to act like the practices matter. The preseason games matter. Even though I know they don't, because you have to get yourself ramped up for that season. You don't just flip the switch and all of a sudden it's on and you're playing at top speed. That's not how this works. So, all righty, guys. We're going to call it a quits here for the night. And that means quits for the week after doing 3 episodes back to back this week. Thanks to my computer issues I've had this week. So we will be back again for you guys Monday.
Monday. Monster
Truck Monday night. So it's always
Day Monday.
Oh yes. And of course, as always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, /X, Twitch, and of course, Rob's favorite,
Drew's LinkedIn page.
Oh yes, my LinkedIn profile there. Yes, I did so good to zoom in. Even in the intro, I'm like,
yeah.
But yeah, But yeah, of course, always we're on all the audio podcast platforms as well. That's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the big ones there. And of course, follow us on the social media if you don't get to catch them live at that point there and you want to watch the video, because it's available afterwards. And if there's just individual segments you want to watch, we break those down on YouTube after every episode as well. So YouTube is really the place to be for the video stuff there. So
yeah,
appreciate you guys. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit the share button.
Make sure you ring that bell.
At that point, the big
really
thing is the subscribe and the bell on YouTube right now. That's definitely the big one for us. Appreciate you guys if you can do that. We'll see you guys again on Monday night. Have a happy, safe weekend there. Appreciate you guys always. And of course, Dakota, again, thank you, man, for sponsoring this episode. We do appreciate you, man.
To you, my friend.
And we'll see you guys next time. Go G-Man! Go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.